Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Sri Govinda Gopinatha Vadana Mohan Shyamukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Keshi Gata Vamshi Bhata Dwadashakana Yahasabalila Koila Shri Nanda Nanda Shri Nandaja Shoda Jaya Jaya Gopaga Shri Damadi Jaya Jaya Denu Vatsaga Jaya Vrisha Manu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhiranagari Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanama Jaya Jaya Krishna Shaka Matu Dvijara Jaya Rama Kata Jaya Rohini Nanda Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vashi Jata Jaya Tuija Adni Jaya Naga Kanyaga Bhakti Te Jahara Pailo Govinda Charan Shira Saman Dala Jaya Jaya Radha Shyam Jaya Jaya Rasa Leela Sarva Manura Jaya Jaya Jwala Rasa Sarvarasa sa Bharakiya bhave jaha Rajate pracha Shri Janava Adapadma Kori Ashmara Dina Krishna Dasha Gohe Nama Sankirtan All glories to Radha and Krishna, the divine forest of Vrindavan. All glories to the three presiding deities of Vrindavan, Shri Govinda, Gopinath, and Madan Mohan. All glories to Shamakund, Radha Kund, Govardhan Hill, and the Jamuna River, Kalindi. All glories to the great forest known as Mahavan, where Krishna and Balaram display all their childhood pastimes. All glories to Keshigat, where Krishna killed the Keshi demon. All glories to the Vamsivat tree, where Krishna attracted all the gopis to come by playing his flute. Glories to all the 12 forests of Braja. At these places, the son of Nanda, Shri Krishna, performed all his pastimes. All glories to Krishna's divine father and mother, Nanda Jashoda. All glories to the cowherd boys, headed by Sri Dama, the older brother of Srimati Radharani and Ananga Manjari. All glories to the cows and calves of Braja. All glories to Radha's divine father and mother, Rishabhanu and the beautiful Kirtidari. All glories to Purnamasi, the mother of Sandipani Muni, grandmother of Madhu Mangala and Nandi Mukhi, and beloved disciple Devarshi Narada. All glories to the young cowherd maidens of Braja. All glories to Gopishwara Shiva, who resides in Vrindavan in order to protect the holy Dham. All glories to Krishna's funny Brahmana friend, Madhu Mangala. All glories to Ramagad, where Lord Balaram performed his rasa dance. All glories to Lord Balaram, the son of Rohini. All glories to all the residents of Vrindavan. All glories to the wives of the proud Vedic Brahmanas. All glories to the wives of the Kaliya serpents. Through pure devotion, they all obtained the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. All glories to the place where the rasa dance of Sri Krishna was performed. All glories to Radha and Shyam. All glories to the divine rasa dance, which is the most beautiful of all Lord Krishna's pastimes. All glories to the mellow of conjugal love, which is the most excellent of all rasas, and is proper by Shri Krishna in the form of the divine Padakiya Bhava, Padamore love. Remembering the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda's consort, Shri Janavi Devi, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna sings the same kirtan of the holy name. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Shyamukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Keshigata Vamshibata Dwadashakana Yahasabalila Koila
Hare Krishna Gurudev. This is my humble obeisance. Guru Maharaj, you are muted. Unmute your mic.
I don't know why sometimes it mutes and sometimes it doesn't. All right. So attendance is not full yet.
Hare Krishna.
So, should we have a little kirtan or do you want to start right off? Haribol?
As you want, Gurudev. Saleka is there. I think he will moderate.
Let's hear a little Kusa kirtan. All right.
Okay, Guru Maharaj. Pranams.
Yeah, kirtan.
Nama. Please go there. Somebody start, you start and then we follow you.
Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padahaya Krishna Pristahaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Bolo Nama Om Vishnu Padahaya
Krishna Prestaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Puravani Pracharini Devishesha Sunaba Achatya Dishata Bini Namaste
Saraswati Devi
Puravani Pracharini
Devishesha Sunyavadi Asta Chade Satarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radhanara Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadara
Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Haribo, 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 Jaya Haribo, Jaya Jaya Haribo, 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 Jaya Haribo. Oh Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Gurudev, those are done with the kirtan. Thank you for giving me the saver to lead. Hare Krishna.
Somebody making a lot of interference.
Bhakti,
Hare Krishna.
your mic.
Mute.
You have a problem. Are you using a microphone? An earpiece?
Everybody mute. Okay, now it's on. Om Agana Timilandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksu Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sajajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Tvishe Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. That's Rupa Goswami because he knows the mind of Lord Chaitanya. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam. So we're studying one of the most important books of Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita. Rupa Goswami is such a devotee that, he's just very new in Lord Chaitanya's camp. He came to Puri and he wrote a sloka that Lord Chaitanya liked very much. And then Lord Chaitanya made him read it out to the devotees and everybody loved it. It was Tunde Tundavali Ratim Vitatune Tundavali Labdaye Karna Kroda Kadambini Katayate Karnam Dubyo Sriha Chetak Sangana Prangana Sarvendriyanam Kritim No Jane Janita Kiyadbir Amritai Krishneti Varnadwai. That means nobody knows how much nectar is in these two syllables, Krishna. When one chants, he feels like he should have 1,000 tongues. And if he hears the holy name, he wants to have millions of ears to hear more. And when the holy name enters the heart, the mind becomes stunned and the senses become inert. Nobody knows how much nectar is there. Then another time, Lord Chaitanya was singing some verse during Rath Yatra or something, and nobody could understand it, but Rupa Goswami, being very new, but he explained it. Lord Chaitanya said, how can he know this? And all the devotees said, well, he obviously got your mercy. And this is a lesson that all the devotees were so happy that Rupa Goswami got so much mercy from Lord Chaitanya. Nobody was thinking, well, he's new, well, what about me? Everybody was blessing him. So this is, how we want to be. So I'm going to finish up the purport on verse 1. And then if there's any more questions, we'll take them. The person who runs here and there, seeking to gratify his palate, is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals, is unable to attain Krishna. As stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are all situated in a straight line, and they fall into the same category. Lord Chaitanya said, Balana kaibe ara, balana paribe. Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious food. Anchalela 6236. This was instruction to Raghunath Das Goswami. He was mainly to exhibit the epitome of renunciation. Those who suffer from diseases of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of the belly, at least according to this analysis. When we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. Just to comment on Ekadasi, there's been a lot of scientific studies about fasting. We see all these advertisements for intermittent fasting, and that's just part of Vaishnava life. And they found that if you fast every 2 weeks, you know, how much health benefit it does and everything. So there's many reasons to fast. It's not just to be afraid of the sinful personified. It's all around beneficial for everybody. Good for the economy, saves a lot of grains, good for the body. It gives everything a rest. And, you know, all the digestive system, which is overworked most of the time. So the body can repair itself. Next, as far as urges of the genitals are concerned, there are two, proper and improper, legal and illicit. When a man is properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for begetting nice children. That is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in illicit sex, as defined in the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or actually having sexual intercourse, or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means, he is caught in the clutches of Maya. These instructions apply not only to householders, but also to Tyagis, or those who are the renounced order of life. In his book, Prema Vivarta, Chapter 7, Sri Jagadananda Pandit says, Vairagi Bhai Gramya Kata Na Shunibe Kane Gramya Varta Na Kahibe Yabe Mili Beyane Swapane Ona Kadabai Shri Sambhasana Grihe Shri Chadiya Bai Asiya Chadvana Yadi Chaha Pranaya Rakite Gorangera Sane Chota Hari Daser Kata Take Yena Mane Bala Na Kaibe Yara Bala Na Paribe Hridayete Radha Krishna Sarvada Sebibe. Oh dear brother, you are in the renounced order of life and should not listen to talk about the ordinary worldly things, nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet with others. Do not think of women, even in your dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of life with a vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember this incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their Lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart of hearts. The conclusion is that one can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami or a Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go, of the senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swami. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community, or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godas, servant of the senses. Following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engage in the service of the senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godas as Adantago, which means those whose senses are not controlled. An Adantago cannot be a servant of Krishna. Prabhupada put on his letterhead, Tridandi Goswami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Title and name. Bhaktivedanta Swami was his name. Tridandi Goswami is the title. So householder, even Prabhupada prays, it's more difficult. They live with a nice woman and they control their senses and they're very elevated. Prahlad Maharaj said, Matirna Krishne Padatak Satova Mito Vipadyeta Griha Pratanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamisram Punakpumas Charvita Charvananam. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, there's no chance of becoming Krishna conscious. Not by personal endeavor, by instruction from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chew. Charvata charvananam. Chewing the chewed. Like cows do. They chew and chew and chew, but evidently they're still getting something out of it. But I don't know, really poor people in America, like my father when he was young, the children would keep their chewing gum at night and then chew it again the next day. My father once asked me, do you do that? I laughed. I just spit it out and started a new one, we have money. But chewing the chew, try to enjoy something that's already been enjoyed. It's all done. That's the material world. There's nothing left. Trying to squeeze more juice out of the orange peel or something. There's no juice there. So any comments or questions? And you can remember back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
There is something that appears twice here about eating Lazarus food and dressing flamboyantly. What's wrong with that? All right, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, what about it?
Yes.
You have to speak up loudly.
So what is?
Yeah.
Okay, now
Please
I'm
repeat your
asking,
question.
what is wrong with Hare Krishna? What is wrong with dressing flamboyantly and eating Lazarus food? Hare Krishna.
Makes you think you're the body, trying to enjoy the body. Although, see, that was for Raghunath Das Goswami. And now, sometimes for preaching, dress nicely is good, but flamboyantly, there's a letter from Bhakti Siddhanta to the sannyasis in his ashram. No foppery. Anybody know what foppery is? Foppery means affected and excessive concern with one's clothes and appearances. So I'm not saying it, this is what the scripture says. It's what Lord Chaitanya told. But Vaishnavas, generally, the dress is simple. But like Bhakti Tirthamraj, he used that, it was flamboyant. He wore his African dress, you know, in America, but not all the time. He wore it when he went to preach in the African American University because it really attracted those people. He didn't do it all the time because it would have turned off a lot of other people. But that particular class of people it attracted. Generally, we have to be careful because we can just get hung up if we want to dress very opulently, then always thinking how to dress tomorrow. Maybe I should, you see, you know, go shopping and get some more new clothes and all that. Like if you know Stephen Jobs, what's his name? Yeah, Steve Jobs. You've heard of him? Haribol?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, so he was a very rich man, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Very highly respected. He always dressed exactly the same. He had a black t-shirt and black pants. No variety ever. Because he didn't want to think about it. He wanted to concentrate on his work. He didn't want to think about what should I wear today. Even that Obama, President of America, he almost dressed the same all the time. He never, you know, really got his wife was more of a fashion, but that's a woman. But he didn't want to distract himself from the work by trying to figure out what to wear. And Albert Einstein, he was going to meet some big person one time, and his wife said, you know, you should dress more nicely. He said, if he wants to meet me, this is what he gets. If he wants to see my clothes, he can come and look in the closet. That's the basic reason. We don't want to become too bodily conscious, too concerned of external look, and we forget to think about the internal. But sometimes, you know, we want to dress nice. Prabhupada didn't want devotees to look really, you know, slovenly and, you know, clothes in their holes and everything. He wanted to dress nice. Even Prabhupada, he asked when he was in the Gaudiya, I'd ask him for money for new devotees because he was going out preaching. And he told Mukunda, first dress, then impress, you know, when you go out. Dress nice, but not flamboyant. You don't have to dress like, you know, Liberace or, I don't know if you know Liberace. I can't think of, you know, who to mention. Charlie Boy, right? It's flamboyant. He has to really think about it every time he goes out, which rings to put in his eyes or his ears, and you know what boots to wear and what clothes and what kind of show he's going to put on. So he's not thinking internally. He's not thinking, you know, he just wants everybody to know that he's Charlie Boy. All right?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
I have a comment, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
I think flamboyant dress to also attract kidnappers nowadays. Kidnappers.
What?
One can be kidnappers.
Yeah.
When you dress flamboyantly, I say nowadays, kidnappers can be attracted to the person.
But he didn't, I said he didn't do it all the time. He did it for a specific purpose.
Hariko.
Normally he dressed sannyasi dress, always shaved head, always tilak.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Madhuvan Prabhu is commenting that in Nigeria nowadays, if you dress flamboyantly, it can attract kidnappers.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, it's
Hare Krishna
dangerous.
Maharaj.
Like having a nice car. Dangerous. You should, like this Umesh in Port Harcourt. He said, well, we know how to live in Africa. You know, we have a crummy house, we have an old car, you know, we dress normal so that, you know, the kidnappers don't spot them. even though they're quite wealthy people. Stupid people want to show off. So you got to be careful. Right? So that's another reason. Don't show off. Don't be rich, and if you are, keep it hidden.
Krishna Maharaj,
Yeah.
I think in our Vaishnava etiquette and
Vaishnava etiquette, what?
lifestyle handbook, it's also ascribed that etiquette handbook, that class is also inscribed in there that one should not dress more beautiful than the deities when going to the temple. I think this is the same reason being repeated here, that because the deities are supposed to be looking more attractive than we do, we are not supposed to dress flamboyantly to the temple. I think it's the same point being raised here. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's one thing about decorating the deity very nicely, that gradually we reduce the desire to decorate our own bodies.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another reason is when you come to our local setting, it actually differentiates the Vaishnava from the other religious sects. For instance, in our setting, the Christendom, the pastor dresses well, maintains his body, his car, his house, even his family, his immediate family, the wife and children. And that leads to, on a more extent, that is why they exploit the congregation. They ask them to bring more funds, more contribution, more tithes, more offering, so that he, the pastor, can maintain himself. Instead of, so at the end of the day, you see that the congregation becomes poor, and he, the pastor or the leader, is more richer. So it actually shows the difference between the Vaishnava and the other sects. That is how I also see it. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, something like that. They, people are not so bright. So if they see the pastor's very rich, then they think he can, and he's promising, I'll make you rich. So they give him the money, thinking it's like going to get a good return on their investment. You know that something like 6 or 7 of the top 10 richest pastors in the world are Nigerians. You know that? They're very clever, very smart guys. They're not all in Nigeria. Some of them are in Nigeria. Others are in England, America. They're multi-millionaires. And they keep getting more and more money from their congregation. I saw one guy, he was preaching in a huge crowd in the church. And he was saying, I'm not going to heaven a poor man. I'm going with money in my pockets. So I was thinking, where's Jesus, right? And the people were cheering like anything. Oh, yeah, right. You don't want to be poor when you get to heaven, and you won't be able to enjoy, right? But Jesus said you can't take it with you. They told me that when I was a kid. Even though they were constantly telling us you have to work hard and study and make more money, they're also saying you can't take it with you. So then that comes down to enjoy now, because when you die, it's too late. So don't wait, get money now and enjoy. Stupid people. All right, should we move on? Because there's, 11 verses. Now this is number 2, so this one's more like clear cut. Achahara prayasas cha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangas jaloyam cha sadbir bhakti vanashiti. Achahara prayasas cha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangas jaloyam cha sadbir bhakti vanashiti. Anybody else want to say it?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Atyahara prayasascha prajapunya magraha jana sangascha lulyamcha sadbi bhakti vinashyati. Hare Krishna.
Good.
Atyahara prayasyacha prajapu niyamagraha jana sangha chalunyam cha sadbi bhakti vinasyati.
Achahara prayasascha prajalpuniyam nagraha jana sangashta limyam cha sabri bhakti vinasyati.
Atyahara prayasascha prajaku niyamagraha jana sangha chalolyamcha sabi bhakti vinashati. There you go.
One more.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay. All right. So word for word meaning. Achahara, overeating or too much collecting. Prayasaha, over endeavoring. Cha, and. Prajalpa, idle talk. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agraha, too much attachment to. Or agraha, too much neglect of. That one's a tricky word, two meanings. Jana Sangha, association with worldly minded persons. Cha, and. Lolyam, ardent longing or greed. And Sadbi. By these six, Bhakti, devotional service, Vinashati is destroyed. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities. Number one, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than are required. In other words, trying to get a big bank account. Two, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Three, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, which include politics, which is very fashionable these days everywhere. And I've always noticed in the newspapers in Nigeria, the first many pages, nothing but politics, but mostly just exposing the corruption of all the politicians. It's amazing how they know every detail about everybody. But 4, practicing scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, or not for the sake of, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations and working independently or whimsically. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, being greedy for mundane achievements. So that's kind of easy, but especially this niyamagraha. Sometimes people follow the regular principles and think I'm very great, I follow the regular principles. And there's no other reason they're following them. They don't care about spiritual advancement, but they just think I'll follow them and that'll give me some prestige in a certain group or something. And also not following them, that's also, both are bad. Following them for the wrong reason or not following, rejecting, say I don't need to, I'm already very advanced, or like we said yesterday, the sahajya, no, chanting nullifies any sinful reaction, so I don't have to follow these rules, I can do whatever I want. Prajalpa, something that everybody has to be careful. Especially now with the social media. I call it anti-social media sometimes. so much babble, so much conflicting information about everything. You know, it's very valuable for something like this, very valuable for preaching, for spreading pictures of Krishna and all these kind of things, spreading the holy name, kirtans. You know, that now on YouTube's full of kirtans, and many people get into Krishna consciousness just from it. You know, they're just fishing around and somehow those things pop up, you know, along the side. You might be interested in this, and they check it out. That's how some of the kirtan singers became famous. Somebody really likes their kirtan and they invite them come to my country, and they start traveling all over the place just from being online. You know? And we have to be careful. We don't, especially never want to side with one political party or another. You might remember one Nigerian named Baraha Das, Victor Ades. Anybody remember him? Anibal?
Yes, good Maharaj.
Yes.
Yeah, we remember
So
his grace.
when he
Yes,
was
Maharaj.
when he was in Sierra Leone, you know, they had a civil war, and there were three parties. There were two rebel parties and one incumbent. So he sided with one of the parties, one of the rebel parties. He let them use his temple house as the headquarters. He told me, I'm helping to rewrite the Constitution. You know, he thought he was on the winning side, but they lost. So he was put in jail as a traitor, you know, as a criminal, and was actually sentenced to death. And somehow or other, miraculously, his wife worked really hard, and Bhakti Tirthamraj asked the whole GBC to pray for him, and somehow they let him out. You know, but you know, we don't want to side with any political party. I wanted him to get out of there. They were, you know, everybody was leaving, and he thought, no, I can't leave because I'll lose the house, and the house had a good location. They lost everything anyway, and I lost because I paid the rent. You know, tried to help him stupidly. So, but we never wanted to, because political parties change all the time. You know, you make friends with one, and the next day he's out of power, and him and all his friends are in jail, and then you're a friend of his. No good. So don't even talk about politics. You know, it doesn't matter to us. We want to spread Krishna consciousness. We should know who's in office and things, and so we don't stupid, but we don't have to back one or believe anybody. So let's read the purport. Somebody else has a book who can read out loud? Salika, you have a good voice.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, can you read the first paragraph?
Can I read, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Read the purport.
Okay, Maharaj. Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has their three primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second is called Tataksha Shakti, or the marginal potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies, being subordinate as external servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Jiva Atmas, or atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either an internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 13. Mahatmas nastu mam parta, Devi prakritim asrita, Bhajanti ananya manaso, Nyatwam bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nation. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible.
Okay, stop there.
The word Mahatma
Stop.
refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses. Sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare
nationalism,
Krishna.
humanitarianism.
Haribol, stop for a while so we can check that out. Very good reading. Just wanted. So your motto there is supposed to be plain living and high thinking. I used to kind of wonder about if anybody was really wanting to follow that. Yeah, we can farm as soon as you give us a tractor and a four-wheel drive truck and build a house, then we can farm. Simple living, right? Otherwise, we can't do it. We have to dig, so it's meant for plain living, high thinking. We don't need very much. We don't need to make a big commercial farm or something, We need to grow enough food so that we can all eat and have more time for Krishna consciousness. So everything's under the Lord's material energy. 3 energies of the Lord. Try to remember. These chapters are about different levels of sadhaka. Antaranga Shakti is the internal potency. That's Srimati Radharani. And the second is called Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency. That's us. Well, it's not exactly, it's us, but and this is something, I don't know if you're interested, but there was a lot of debate some time back that of the origin of the soul. And a lot of devotees didn't accept Prabhupada. And they said, we come from Tatastha Shakti. But Tatastha Shakti is not a place exactly, it's in between. And so we're like that. We can be material or spiritual, we have choice. We can be in the spiritual world, but if we don't want to serve Krishna, then we're in the material world. And if we ever get back to wanting to serve Krishna, we're back in the spiritual world. Prabhupada described it like the beach. If you've ever been on the beach where I live here, there's a beach. So some days the water is really far away. The beach is very, very wide, or you can walk out like half a kilometer and it's only up to your ankles. And then a couple of days later, it's flooding up to the way, way up and breaking the footpath, and bringing so much trash and garbage in. So that is sometimes land and sometimes water, that area where the tide goes in, the tide goes out. That's the Tatastha. We all come from the Antaranga, but we dive into the Bahiranga. Bahi means out, external. So we're marginal. We can be in the material, we can be in the Bahiranga or the Antaranga. Either way, we're under control of Krishna, either internal or external potency. Then this verse is, I think everybody knows it. And the next, who can read next? That's what is a Mahatma.
Salika is
Hare
still
Krishna
reading.
Maharaj.
He didn't read.
Please, it's okay.
I don't know. He's supposed to be reading Guru Maharaj. I don't know why he's not hearing Guru Maharaj.
It's so absorbed. Okay, Kavi, you read it again.
Okay, Guru Maharaj. From where you stopped.
No, wrote the word Mahatma.
Okay. I'm
Important.
sorry.
We have, everybody knows Mahatma Gandhi, and he wanted to call everybody Mahatma.
The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification, from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. Should I continue, Guru Maharaj?
What?
Should I continue?
Yeah, no, just a minute.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. That's what I was going to say is in the next paragraph.
Okay. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Devim Prakitim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani, or our expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of the Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya.
Okay, so that, no, just remember that when that verse says Daiviyesha, that Daivi Prakriti, that means Radharani. That's a Mahatma. That means he's engaged in Krishna's service. He's under the shelter of Radharani, then that means he's devotee. So all of us, because we're chanting Hare Krishna, what is Hare?
Srimati Radharani.
That's right. So we're calling out for Radharani to engage us in Krishna's service. And because Krishna will do whatever Radharani says, and Radharani is very merciful. So if someone, she will tell Krishna, please accept this devotee. So that's the internal energy. It's not a rubber stamp that someone's a Mahatma. It means broad-minded, very, open, knowing Krishna all around. Otherwise, it's cripple-minded. And they're in Mahamaya. They're trying to enjoy the material world. Mahamaya is also a servant of the Yogamaya. It's also another name of Radharani, but in the material world, where it makes people forget that Krishna, they don't love Krishna. They're trying to enjoy this external energy. Okay, someone else read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
So I'm continuing from where he ended.
Yeah, indeed, all it is. Indeed, all living
Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. Adi Devika Klesha, into brackets, sufferings caused by the demigods such as drought, earthquakes, and storms. 2. Adi Bhutika Klesha, in brackets, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or animals. And Adhyatmika Klesha, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Deva Bhutama Hetava, the condition souls subjected to these three miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties. The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, bears will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collection of more than necessary. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary.
Hey, hold it. You went pretty far. Just any comments on what he just read? So this is, it's not describing exactly, it's about sadhana bhakti, this first 7 verses. But this is just describing the conditions that we want to have our life in so that we can practice nicely. This is describing the impediments, the obstacles, how to overcome the obstacles. Well, here's the guidelines. What are the obstacles? We think the obstacle is the temple president or the GBC or my wife or this or my family or this, no money. Those are not the real obstacle. The real obstacle are these things. We don't have the right outlook on life. It's mind. And everybody's suffering. This is the nature of the material. What are the threefold miseries? 3 kinds of suffering, you can say, without looking back. You don't have to say in Sanskrit, but you should know. We should all know these things, right?
Sufferings caused by demigods such as drought, famine, and fire outbreaks.
Yeah, what's that called?
I've forgotten the Sanskrit.
Daiva means the demigods, devas. Nobody can do anything about it. They say they can give a warning, but the warning always comes late. Afterward, they can tell you how strong the wind was, how deep the flood was, how much damage there was. But so far, they've never been able to prevent it. Actually, they're causing these things to happen by all their crazy things they're doing in the world. And then there's, what was another one?
Adhyatmic klesha.
Yeah,
The suffering caused by the mind and the body.
Right. And what's the other one?
suffering caused by other living entities and enemies.
Yeah, could be enemies. Insects, mosquitoes, all the different things, people, governments, anything could be them. But it's always there. And if you see Durga, she has a trident. She has this like spear with 3 points. It's called misery. She's behind it all. she's charged with mature energy. So we have to try to avoid these things, and at the same time, we have to not be controlled by them because they're going to come for sure. So we have to know how to tolerate and how to live with it. And suffering by our own body and mind, the body is full of diseases. The mind is always disturbed. It's Kali Yuga. Unless we're chanting and absorbed in trying to serve Krishna. Okay, the main problem. Listen carefully. Because we think there's many problems. All right, who can read that?
Maharaj Hare Krishna, please, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
The analogy of if a bag of rice is placed in a public place, bears will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. In the life of animals that we call ruminants, I'll use the cow as an example, or the goat. We normally see that when they are grazing on the vegetation, they will store some of the food in their jaws. We see that in the life of rats as well. They will by all means fill the food in their jaws and then eat some and then go away. When we look at the life of the human being as the analogy compared to the analogy here, where the human being will take the whole bag of rice. In the Bible, it is inscribed that it said, go to the ant, use sluggard, consider it waste and be wise. Why was the animal ant used as a point of lesson for the humankind? Because the animal ant will always go out in the dry season to look out for food and store in its storehouse, so that during rainy season it will be there enjoying. Is the animal or the ant also not doing the same as a human being who also pick the whole bag of rice to go and store, just in case maybe against famine or something like that? I'm just trying to compare these two analogies and see, because we see the same thing in the life of the animals. They also, like the goat, when they go to ladder in the couple, you see that they will be rich. We call the what's the name, rich in the card, or something like there's an agricultural term given to it. Compared to this human analogy, is it not the same thing? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have another question which complements Rasa Vilasa das analog. Does it also mean that per this statement here,
Yes.
is it against savings?
From the top. Don't want food, they want from the top. There's no
we shouldn't save?
Well, I could really get into it, but there we go with some of you people really like to challenge what it says in the book to find something different, which is easy to do. Any scripture, you can find things to prove anything. But generally, if you look at those animals, they take what they need. They don't, hoard and take a big stash and at the cost of other people and then sell it back to them at a high price. All that like humans do. That's basically what it's really talking about. And of course, the birds, it's true, the birds don't keep the stash. Many animals don't keep the stash also. Like meat-eating animals, that they have to eat it up right away or somebody's going to steal it. That's why lion and tiger, they eat till they pass out, and then their whole family eats, and then until they get, hungry again, and they have to go out and hunt again. But you can find, different kinds of animals that do that, but they're not hoarding, and squirrels, they bury the seeds and they forget where they buried them, and that's how the trees get planted around different places. It's Krishna's arrangement. But humans take everything overboard, you know. They kill just for the sake of killing, not for the sake of eating. Animals also kill other animals, but for eating or for protection. They don't just kill them for sport like humans do. Humans will stash, like, you know, millions of tons of grains and wait for some other country to have a drought and then sell it to them at a high price. Things like that, you know. Animals don't do anything like that. Man will hoard so much, you know, much more than he needs. We have to keep in the temple a little stock, you know, because we're not just one person, one renounced Brahmin living that every day will just go out begging. We have to maintain a, you know, so the temples have, you know, they have to have, but not like we're making a big business out of it. We're keeping it to feed others, to help others. Is that all right? So, Kavi? Does it make sense?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Somebody read again? The main problem. Here we go.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is a repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. According to nature's arrangement.
That's basically what I was saying in response to that question. Okay?
Am I right? Yeah.
The animals do that. They don't take more than they need. They keep it ready for the winter and stuff. And not all animals do that. All right?
All right.
Okay, next, according.
Should I continue or somebody else?
If there's someone else, let's have variety.
Is anybody ready to continue?
Hare
Stephen,
Krishna.
hello.
According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary atyahara is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it.
Right, so that's what I was saying. People are hoarding. Individuals are hoarding. Rich man countries, America hoards so much grains they produce, and then they wait till another country is desperate, and then they sell it to them at a high price. All kinds of things like that. Okay. Next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Where is this defect coming from? Because from the analogy we are reading, we could even see that the animals are trying to live, like we all know that the animals do not act according to their own whims, but the way nature has arranged them for them to obey. That means even in the animal kingdom, there are rules. So why are we human beings who are rather having the higher developed intelligence to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong? Why are we rather living the other way around like animals instead? And the animals are rather following the nature's laws. Is it because of greed? Is it because of lust? What is it? I'm just somehow confused there. Hare Krishna.
Human beings are a higher form of life, so we have independence. We can choose what we want to do. The animals don't have that. So human life is very valuable and at the same time very dangerous. So therefore humans need education, what to do and what not to do. Animals don't need very much. By their nature, that meat-eating animals eat meat. They don't go in the rice shop. And the vegetarian ones, they graze, they eat grass. They don't eat meat even if they find it on the road, even if you offer it to them. And they have sex on schedule. They have a season, and the rest of the time they don't have sex. And it's only when the woman is ready to get pregnant. But humans can have sex, all day long. Women can, men are more limited, but they try, some of them, many times over and over again. Now, some birds, like the pigeons, they have a lot of sex. Mostly. So the humans we have this independence, but that means we can choose to serve Krishna or not. That's the real choice. So if we decide I want to serve Krishna, we have to learn what to do and what not to do. Humans have to be taught what to eat and what not to eat. But according to their karma, they get born in different environments where they learn different standards. So it's a gift, actually. It's not a curse. Some people say, well, why did God give us this choice? Why didn't he just make us love him and have no choice? Because then it's not love if you have no choice. There's no value for anybody. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Somebody read again. I have to jump away for a minute. Let's read.
Another Chai Prabhu wants to try.
Mercy, my Lord. Collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayasa or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There's no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood. For one can produce food, grains locally and get milk from cow. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given a higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness or the understanding of God. One's relationships with him and the ultimate goal of life, love of God. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not hearing, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence to get more than necessary and simply eat to satisfy the tongue. By God's arrangement, for God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world. But instead of using their higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent man misuse their intelligence to produce many unnecessary and unwanted things. Thus, factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are opened. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they have been advised to return to a primitive way of life. Generally, people do not like to accept plain living, and I think that is their unfortunate position. Human life is meant for God realization.
Okay, wait, okay.
Okay. All right.
Any comments so far? On what he just read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
By a portion, by God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world. I want to ask a question on the milk aspect. The baby calf is also supposed to feed on the milk from the mom. If we are also taking this milk, are we not depriving the animal of its entitled food?
You're reading the vegan propaganda, is that right?
Please said.
You're reading the vegan propaganda, right? The demoniac representation.
I've never come across it, please.
Well, our cows there in Accra, the devotees never get any milk from them. Cows are meant to give milk to humans. The calf takes milk for some time and then they don't care about it anymore. And many devotees have had cows that gave milk for 10, 12 years with only one calf. If you treat them nicely and lovingly, they'll keep giving milk. Even some devotees had a cow that didn't have a calf, a couple of places. And the cow, they loved the cow and took care of her, and she started giving milk. So it's meant for human beings. Now these demons make propaganda that it's only meant for the calf, and it's poison for human beings, and so many demoniac things, which completely against all historical. When I was a child, they always called milk the miracle food. And that wasn't even just the dairy people's advertising. That was just what people thought, because that's been known for so many years. Milk and butter and cheese. Now, the Fulanis know about it a little bit. I don't know. I heard now the Fulanis are getting really demonized. I don't know what the problem is. But the calf can, get a lot of milk, and still humans get a lot also. But nowadays, because everybody's more and more living in the cities, and depending on industry, you can also say, well, how can someone, living in the middle of Lagos or Accra, how can they grow their own food? And it's very difficult. Although, if they have, because they have no space, they're crowded in, and but some places they're growing food on the roof of their house, growing food inside. So it's very difficult because people they don't want to live that simple life in the countryside. You go to places like Dubai and Singapore, they don't produce anything. They do have, in Dubai, they have dairy, but they have to import all the food for the cows. But you can go to the supermarket, they have much more stuff than any other country. They have things from every part of the world. There's no season, there's no mango season there because they get them from north, they get them from south, they get them from here, they get them from there. So, and they have food from Germany, a specialty, they're from America, and they have everything. Because they're just making money by tourism and business. But nothing's fresh, everything's old, and I remember Mahamantra Prabhu from, I guess, where was he from? Ghana or Nigeria? Haribol? Haribol?
Arjuna Maharaj.
Yeah, where was Mahamantra Prabhu? He was from Ghana or Nigeria?
Mahamantra Prabhu.
Long time ago.
From Ghana. From Ghana.
Yeah, I don't know him.
He moved to America.
From Ghana.
He moved to America a long time ago.
Yes.
And he said
Yes.
they were really surprised how the vegetables and everything was no good. It was so much better in Ghana because they don't have all these refrigerating things and, you know, chemicals to keep the food fresh for hundreds of years. You know, everything has to be fresh or it goes bad. So they had much better vegetables and fruits. They were surprised. But then they get used to it because they have a nicer house and they can buy a car and, you know, roads are good and, you know, all that. So now we do have a lot of farmland. We're growing more and more things, but we just have to think to grow what we need to eat. And then if we have extra, you can sell it. Devotees have tried to make commercial farms and get in big trouble. That happened up there in Akrati. You know, with Govinda planted something and the guinea eggs or whatever you call them and hired the local people. And then it didn't rain that year and he couldn't sell it. It didn't grow and he couldn't pay the local people and there's almost riots. Bhakti Church had to do a emergency fundraising in America to pay off the workers. So, you know, because that's not what we're supposed to do. So now in the Shunyani, where's the farm that Prahlad is? That, you know, they're trying to make mud houses and stuff, you know, but those are nice houses, proper mud house, very nice, very comfortable and clean and natural, healthy, not like cement. Cement's very unhealthy. Much better to have wooden house or brick or mud house. All right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, so Prabhupada stressed all the time, grow your own, produce your own food. And I hope that we get more and more into it. We have a lot of land and devotees are doing it. And we want to encourage everybody to do it more. Try to get the young people, you know, if young people join or want to do farming, then please engage them, even if you have to send them somewhere else because you don't have farming, you know, do it because this is the future. Very important thing. Okay, so Prabhupada stressed it here, he stressed it all the time. You know. Man, and then you have more time. You don't have to work constantly, you know, you have more time for a spiritual life than having to go into a job or drive a taxi all day or, you know, work in an office. Okay, so these factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are everywhere. I saw here, like, when they first had this lockdown, you know, they closed all the restaurants, they closed the schools, they closed everything. But the whiskey shop never closed. It's always open. The bottle shop, you know. And the governor here was encouraging people, drink wine, stay home and drink wine, you know, so you don't get too disturbed, you know, you can stay drunk at home. He's trying to promote some kind of local wine. So Kali Yuga. So if people learn not to collect too many goods, you know, you don't need such a big house. Like if you have to have a big bed and you have to have big furniture and all these things, then you need a bigger house. And then everything gets more and more troublesome. Simple living, you don't need all that. You know. I saw in the ashram in Lagos, all the so-called men up there, they had these mattresses, old mattresses. The smell was so bad I couldn't even go in there, you know, because they didn't use bed sheets or anything, and you can't clean the foam rubber. Just sweating on the foam rubber and hellish, you know. And the brahmacharis in Chopati who come from very rich families and could have very high-paying jobs because they have master's degrees from prestigious universities are sleeping on a thin straw mat and out preaching all day brilliantly. So, you know, try to understand. Okay. Human life is meant, did we read that one? Human life is meant for God realization.
Hare Krishna.
Human life is meant for God realization, and the human being is meant, given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain higher state should follow the instructions of the Vedic literatures. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. Famous verse from the Sutta Goswami, Bhagavatam 129, Dharmasya yapavargasya nartor tai yopakalpate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, dharma, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Very strong instruction, they're very powerful. We're all working, you have your occupation. It's meant for spiritual cultivation to support that. And if you get, the ultimate occupational service is performing bhakti yoga. If you gain materially by that, it has to be used to spread Krishna consciousness, not for, like these pastors, you say, there's people trying to investigate some of these pastors in America. They have couple $1 million mansions or multi-million-dollar couple airplanes, They say, well, my congregation, they want to give it to me. What can we say, actually? That's true that people give it. They know how they're living and they want to be like that, so they support them. But we have to be careful that even if you get rich, you become a very famous preacher, keep a low profile and use whatever you have for the sake of others. The first step in human civilization consists of occupational engagements performed according to scriptural injunctions. The higher intelligence of the human being should be trained to understand basic dharma. In human society, there are various religious conceptions characterized as Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Mohammedan, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, human society is no better than animal society. Okay, got it? Anybody disagree? Silence?
Yes, Maharaj, we agree.
Okay, good. Any comments? Kavi?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. Can you say something about that quick?
No,
In 1 or 2 minutes.
Guru Maharaj, you have said that everything, Guru Maharaj, so we are listening to you.
I was just reading it. Okay, somebody can read. Devarishi, you can read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Uh-oh, is that your microphone that does that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
Okay. As stated above.
Sorry, but your microphone is defective. Or your internet connection. Okay, somebody else?
As stated above.
Prince.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yaduna. You can read it? You have to
Yes, Guru
unmute.
Maharaj.
As above stated, Dharma Shaya Pavargasya. Read that.
Hare Krishna. As stated above, the Mashahia Pavagasha, Atorita Upakapati. Religion is meant for attaining emancipation, not for getting bread. Sometimes human society manufactures a system of so-called religion aimed at material advancement, but that is far from the purpose of true Dharma. Religion entails understanding the laws of God, because the proper execution of these laws ultimately leads one out of material entanglement. That is the true purpose of religion. Unfortunately, people accept religion for material prosperity because of atyahara, or an excessive desire for such prosperity. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. Even though we require economic development, true religion allows it only for supplying the bare necessities of material existence. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. If our endeavor, prayasa, is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor. Hare Krishna.
Okay, just one quick thing. Like, do they have what they, in America, the really popular churches, they call prosperity church. The same idea that many churches, and promise to make you rich. God wants you to be rich. He doesn't want you to suffer. He wants you to enjoy life like I'm enjoying, like Pastor Apostle so-and-so. I saw one big signboard there in one of those countries, Apostle so-and-so, and it showed a gigantic house, like Bill Gates' house or something, and a Rolls-Royce car or something like that, And this is what you get by coming to my church. But if it worked, then why is everybody poor? Why is there so much poverty? Everyone goes to the church, right? Everyone goes to church and prays, but according to karma, they get what they deserve. But we don't promise material prosperity. We promise spiritual prosperity, so you can be satisfied with whatever you have. Then you can be happy. If you're always wanting more and more achahara, then you can never be happy. It's greed, it's increasing. Okay, another one. Next.
Salika Prabhu is raising his hand.
Huh?
Salika Prabhu is raising his hand.
Okay, what does he want? Because I can't see the book and screen at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Maharaj. I was just going to ask, how do we balance these instructions vis-a-vis Yukta Vairagya? Because in the beginning of Krishna consciousness in West Africa, there was so much of principles of renunciation that went so far to the extreme that devotees start forgetting the basic requirements, necessities for endeavoring to maintain their own even lives, to the extent that even engaging in activities of their daily need, which Prabhupada emphasized in all of his purpose, that devotees can work to take care of themselves. And this went so bad that you will see that in West Africa generally now, an average devotee is a beggar. They don't see the need to take responsibility, to engage in their daily livelihood, to maintain themselves, and engage that in Krishna consciousness. So I want you to balance that, Maharaj.
Yeah, well, that's, a matter of intelligence. Actually, that comes in many places. Some people become a devotee, or like in India, there's so many sadhus. If they dress like a sadhu, they can ride the bus for free and stuff. And there's always somebody handing out food. And otherwise, that's the only reason they're doing it. Others are genuine and they're doing it, to dedicate their life, not get entangled. dedicate their life to spiritual life. So there are many, many devotees in Africa and everywhere else who are quite responsible. Most of you there are on this, right? This group at the moment. But we have to teach people, we talk too much, I know in America it was like that, but most of those devotees, they were like that before they joined. They already didn't want to work. They didn't want to, they were just living kind of on the street. And then they become devotees and think now Krishna will just take care of me. All I have to do is chant. In India, that happened a lot. It's easy to go to Mangalarti, do a little service here and there, and you can live there nicely. Or you can go out and preach and maybe get a trip to America and get rich. But, that's the thing. We have to, the scripture is, everything is a razor's edge. You have to be careful to understand things. Family man, if you want to be married, you have to be able to maintain a house and wife and children. So, we don't want people to just get married when they have no life, they don't know what they're going to do. How are you going to live? Well, I don't know. Depend on Krishna. No, you have to do it first. Is that all right? So,
yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. If you want to have a lot of children, fine, but you have to take care of them. I've seen, like, when I was in Vrindavan, I had to walk back to where I was staying. There was like a park there. And there was some couple families. They come and they just camp out and they all go out begging every day. And that's how they live. They probably move around different parts of the country at times. A lot of kids, they're all just sleeping there, in a little shelter for rain. And they just all go out begging, whole family. Maybe the woman stays home and cooks. There's always people like that everywhere. There's other people that are entrepreneurs. There's also people who are Bhagavad Gita and getting rich like anything. All kinds of there. Bhakti Tirtha was not stressing us to give up everything. He wanted cottage industries and he was promoting all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how whatever you say came about. Some people are like that. They prefer, they could go to the Indians and get a little donation. Some people leave our society, but they still go looking like they're from us and they go to the Indians and get money, how to talk a little bit. Some are much more expert. Okay? We have to teach. Like Gyanachakshus, he's not like that. People he's recruiting are not like that. He's, we should learn from him. People are encouraged to whatever they're doing, do it, but do it for Krishna. That's all. But most of these people that join and they're beggars, they were already not doing anything. They were already opted out of, working hard. So we catch, people, they take shelter of religious movements because, especially in the beginning there in Africa, economy was really good. And temples had money, the Indians were supporting very nicely, and people could live quite comfortably, right? By just going out on Harinam or something, they didn't have to do all that much. I know some that get really mad, when the economy crashed, the temple could no longer feed them really opulently, and they got really angry. Right? Isn't it?
Thank you.
Isn't that true? I saw it.
You're right, Maharaj.
Yeah. They were just living there because it's a good place to stay. And then they go on, get some incense and go out begging, and they learn the tricks. They don't mind living a simple, austere life, but it's not honest enough spiritual. You want people to cultivate their spiritual life, do whatever is necessary to bring it to. Okay? See if we can finish this one. Too much time left. Another impediment is prajalpa, unnecessary talking. Okay, somebody read.
Another impingement is prajapa, unnecessary talking. When we mix with a few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like croaking toads. If we must talk, we should talk about the Krishna consciousness movement. Those outside of the Krishna consciousness movement are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, and novels, solving crossword puzzles, and doing many other nonsensical things. In this fashion, people simply waste their valuable time and energy. In the Western country, old men retired from active life, play cards, fish, watch television, and debate about useless socio-political schemes. All these and other frivolous activities are included in the Prajapa category. Intelligent person interested in Krishna consciousness should never take part in such activities.
Wow.
I continue.
Yeah, I mean, I just looking ahead, and I didn't realize these purports are gigantic, you know. We mostly have just been reading. We can't even finish one. Anyway, this we can definitely see people retire and, you know, they have nothing to do. I went to Vietnam one time, and, you know, Vietnam had been pretty old-fashioned, you know, and the devotee's house, and his father, the old man, he just sat looking at the television all day long. So many like that, you know, they're just lost, just become zonked out. They sit in the park and talk about this and that, talk about politics. We have to be careful. Okay, let's a little more. Jana Sangha means associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. One should strictly avoid that. Okay, somebody?
Sri Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees. Bhakta Sane Vas. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of lost devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. Consequently, materialistic persons form various associations and clubs to enhance their endeavors. For example, in the business world, we find such institutions as the Stock Exchange and Chamber of Commerce. Similarly, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Krishna. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increased day by day. Many people from different parts of the world are joining this society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvriti commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers falls within the category of atyara, collecting more than needed. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, the endeavor of philosophical speculators to write volumes of books on dry philosophy devoid of Krishna consciousness is entirely futile. The work of karmis, who write volumes of books on economic development, also fall within the category of Atyara. Similarly, those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and who are simply interested in possessing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gain, are included under the control of Atyara.
Okay. So we only have like 5 minutes. So I think I saw a hand up. No, I don't see it. What, Rupa Vilas or Rasa?
Yes, Rasa Vilas Prabhu was raising his hand before.
Put it down.
Yeah. Do you see your question?
Comment or question?
Rasa Vilas Prabhu, are you there?
The question vanished from my head. As I didn't ask on time, please forgive me. When I remember, I'll come on.
It's all right. Yes. Guru Maharaj, I have a question.
Okay.
Yes. Reading this purport, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned that if one collects material knowledge, also is categorized as a tiara. What about? I've seen that many devotees, like from my experience when I was in Chopati, I have seen that many devotees there who are involved in management, they read some of these self-helping books, like all these management guru books that can enhance in their enhance their service in management or leadership to Srila Prabhupada's movement. So how can we understand this if reading the materialistic book also is considered to be a tiara?
Well, it's good collecting knowledge, just for the sake of having it. If you're collecting knowledge that you can utilize in Krishna's service, and it's fine. That's always the key. Why you're doing it. Like we heard yesterday, which I told everybody to memorize and write on the wall, that spiritual advancement is completely dependent on your attitude. So, if you need to organize something, you might have to study how to do it, because other people have done it, they're experts. So, we can learn from them and utilize their techniques for Krishna. That's the difference. It's why you're doing it. But someone is just collecting knowledge and think, well, I know so much, knowledge without vijnana is useless. So if you're managing, but you're just reading all kinds of books about how to fix your car or something, that's different. If devotees are doing computer work nowadays, things are moving so fast. So they need to keep up. They need to study. They need to sometimes take a course, how to use the internet for good purposes. There's very scientific courses, and that can help spreading the consciousness, right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Have to learn, but not that we just learn for the sake of knowing something. That's the difference. It's like you said, same thing with money. You can collect as much money as you want, but you use it. But if we're just collecting it to have, to be a miser and just think how much money I have, and misuse it, then that's achahara, more than required. But Prabhupada pushed, collect money, so did Bhakti Siddhanta, but he always had them in debt. You got to do this, you got to do that, we're going to build this temple or that temple. Keep everybody busy, but not keep a huge savings accounts. Dangerous. If you have a big savings account, somebody steal it. The bank will go bankrupt and things happen. Okay? It's a good question. This is all, all these things we need to think about. A lot of times we just read, if we do read, we just read without stopping to think about what we're reading. But we should. go back over it. And it all becomes clear. All right. So we'll stop there for today. That's amazing. I was thinking this purport was not as big as yesterday, but bigger. We're not even having much except reading, but all right. So I want to thank everybody.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj, for your time, your patience with us.
First, for me, today is really busy. I had a class at from 10:30 till 11:30 till 1 o'clock, and then I canceled another one because this one would come right afterward. Now I'm supposed to have a meeting and another class later, so Krishna's trying to keep me busy.
So let all devotees try to omit themselves and let us appreciate Guru Maharaj by chanting one powerful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
No.
Jai.
You know, if you're farming, you might have to read some books about farming or talk to people who know what they're doing. They had to study how to build these mud houses. I know how to build a mud house. Right? All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.